Hi guys, just doing a quick video about how I got into Spanish and how I have found it so far. It's been a pretty long journey. It's been almost a year since I started sort of learning Spanish properly, and it's not been going as quickly as I would have liked it to go. You have some days when you try, it kind of works. Other days it's a bit less positive, but yeah, it's interesting. I guess the first time I got into Spanish was when I was at uni. So I had in my third year of uni, I had a Spanish roommate. Who, to be fair, he used to annoy me because he did this thing where he would go to bed super late and wake up very late in the morning as well. So I'm like trying to sleep, and he leaves the light on because he's still up and he's still doing stuff up and about. And then in the morning, I need to go to lectures. I need to get up in the morning and do stuff, but he's like still sleeping, so I can't turn on the light. So he was just like a total inconvenience in my life. But he was the first person. He was the first time I came in contact. I think that was the first time I came into contact with the language, and just watching him and seeing him speak, and he was bilingual. He spoke English very well, and he spoke Spanish well as well. And I was kind of like, I want to be like this guy. I want to have a second language, that I can speak. So I enrolled in uni in my third and fourth year. I chose electives to do Spanish, and did it in uni. But like most things, when you're doing it in a sort of formal education setting, it's not the same. Like I had to do exams, I had to do presentations. So I didn't enjoy learning at the time because it was like it's my degree, my grade kind of depends on this stuff. So yeah, I learned a little bit, but I didn't enjoy the process. So when I left uni, I didn't really keep it going. I kind of sort of parked it there, and that was it. Had enough. And then I guess that was it. And the thing about languages, some of you might know, is when you stop speaking this language, you lose it. You lose it so quickly. And I was, living in England, don't really use the language here. So yeah, there was no, what's that kid? There was no way sort of forward with Spanish for me. That was all the way back in 2015. And then kind of fast forward to 2022. So 7 years after, I got some time off work, and I was planning to travel to South America to just have a bit of a break for 3 months. And I thought, how about I pick up the language again? How about I resurrect my Spanish education? So I signed up to a course in London, used Duolingo a bit, and I started taking lessons in Battersea Spanish in London. It was hard. It's hard. It was like once a week for about an hour and a half. Was doing that, and then when the time came, this was October 2022, packed my bags and went off to Colombia. So in Colombia, that drops you straight into the deep end, because you're in the country, everybody speaks Spanish, and you're kind of forced to practice or use it a little bit. I mean, if you're like me and you're too scared, because I'm going to a foreign country, never been there before, I don't know if I'm going to be safe, I don't know if they're going to kidnap me, I don't know what's going on out there, and I don't want to get in trouble. I want to come back home and enjoy my life. So I went and stayed in a very touristy part of so it was Medellin. Medellin was the city that I went to. So I went and stayed in a very touristy English part of Medellin. It's called El Poblado. So in El Poblado, there are there's so many English people there, English restaurants. Well, not English, but restaurants where they speak English. Many English speaking tourists. So it's quite easy to like, get away with not knowing much Spanish while I was there. So spent some time there, but also whilst I was there, they have loads of Spanish schools in El Poblado. So I signed up to a class and I did a class for I think a week, like a sort of immersive type course. And I guess what I learned, sort of the main thing I learned while I was there was you can't really learn Spanish. Nobody can, I mean, you can learn Spanish, but nobody can teach you Spanish. You have to learn Spanish by yourself. So whilst I was going to classes, it really does depend on how much you do by yourself back at home. So are you doing your homework? Are you practicing? Are you going out to speak to people, speak to the locals? Are you sort of, exposing yourself to the language as much as you can? And I found that if when I wasn't doing that, I was getting very, very sort of minimal exposure to the language. So it was hard, but being there, sort of the first few weeks I was keeping to myself. I was scared, I was nervous, but then after a while, I kind of like, started going to like language exchange events and speaking to native people, speak a bit of English, speak a bit of Spanish, learn a few words and a few sentence structures. And I probably did that until I sort of finished in Colombia. And I guess that was the thing for me. That was the moment for me where I felt like, okay, I've got a chance in this language. I've got a chance to be bilingual. This is a really cool thing to have. Why don't I keep it going? Why don't I keep trying? So I kind of kept it. When I came back to the UK, I tried to keep it going. So I went back to Duolingo. I was learning more words, learning more sort of grammar, sentence structures. And then I discovered italki. Italki is an app basically where you can meet local sort of native speakers, native Spanish speakers, and you can sort of sign up to speak with them, have a bit of a conversation practice or grammar, whatever it is you want. And you've got teachers from Spain, from Colombia, from Venezuela, basically all the sort of Spanish-speaking countries, Mexico, Puerto Rico, etc. So I started sort of using that. So I would schedule like a class a week with someone from Colombia. I chose Colombia because I was there and I felt like the accent was the one that I was most familiar with. So yeah, I spoke to someone every week. I tried to sort of keep the consistency, sort of keep the practice. And I also at this point learned that one, you don't have to be in the country. I know people always say, the best way to learn a language is to be in that country, be in the country where they speak the language. But actually, what I found was not necessarily. I probably improved just as well whilst I was in the UK, to when I was in Colombia. I think the main difference is that the opportunities to practice the language is less when you're here, because there aren't that many people who speak the language. But what I can say is it's still up to you to learn the language, because there's tons and tons of materials out there. There's podcasts, there's YouTube videos, there's sort of just Google Translate. There's literally so much content out there. I follow a number of people on YouTube, vlogs and different channels that sort of talk about Spanish speaking and practicing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's definitely an abundance of material. So I don't think I don't believe that you need to be in the country to learn the language. You can learn from anywhere if you want to, if you're devoted to it, if you're committed, if you can be consistent, if you can put in the work and all that kind of stuff. So I think I probably also realized that it's a long process. It's very easy to get frustrated. And actually, at the start of this video, when I started talking, I thought this video was going to be about me complaining about how long and how frustrating and how, it's a lot of work. But actually, as I started to speak, I realized there's a lot to be sort of thankful for and be happy about, and the sort of progress that I have made than what I haven't achieved. So I think, all in all, I'm at a point now where I know a lot of words. I know some sentence structures. I know the alphabet. I know the sounds. I can pronounce. I think being Nigerian, I'm from the Yoruba tribe in Nigeria, and sort of the sounds in Yoruba are phonetic, and I think that has helped me as well, because the Spanish pronunciation is very, very phonetic. So yeah, I would say that has helped. So knowing the sounds, knowing the alphabet, and actually I think right now I understand what's being talked about when people are speaking. I don't understand every word, but I understand the sort of the gist of the conversation generally. And when people do speak slower, I actually understand maybe over 75% of what's being said. So I suspect it's going to be like that for a while. I'm going to have to keep sort of putting in the work, practicing, and try not to get frustrated. I'm at a point now where I'm trying to find a community of Spanish learners, Spanish speakers in my area where I live. Just give myself the maximum possible exposure to the language. The more I'm able to speak it, the more I'm able to sort of listen to it. Also changing material. So if I listen to a particular podcast for a few weeks, I get bored of it. I'm gonna change to a new one. I'm gonna try something different. I feel like having an abundance of materials kind of keeps it fresh, kind of keeps it going. For example, I was listening to Coffee Break Spanish on Spotify for a long time, amazing podcast. And I was doing that sort of once a day, every day. I switch up to something else, usually for a period of time. When I get bored of it, I go to another one, and so on and so forth. And yeah, that's kind of how I keep myself motivated. It's hard, it's long, but what I find is, you can improve. I don't know my level now. I know a lot of grammar. So I think once you know the present and the past tenses, you pretty much sort of have, I would say, 70% of conversations are using those tenses. And then you've got things like the subjunctive, which is just a little bit hard. Not a little bit hard, it's very hard. It's just very unnatural for English speakers, the subjunctive. But you learn it, you practice it, you try here, you try there, ojalá this, espero que this, no me gusta this, or whatever it is. You learn the subjunctive. And I forgot to give one of the guys who I listen to a lot at the start. Even my wife now knows him. Juan, español con Juan. He's I feel like if you're a beginner, you need to hook up with that guy. He's quite funny, very charismatic, very sort of dramatic Spanish teacher. His videos are excellent for learning and just for sort of listening to the language. There's tons of materials online, so really there's no excuse. If you want to learn the language, you will learn the language. That's what I've realized. The only thing I would say is you've got to be very patient. It's a long process, so it might take you years and years and years, and you might only see progress ever so slightly, Yeah, celebrate your progress. Celebrate, if you learn how to use a particular verb, celebrate that. Be happy. Every little win, I think, needs to be celebrated. And that's the way to sort of keep yourself going. I remember the other day I feel like I learned the difference between fue and era and how to use them. I still make mistakes here and there, but I feel like I'm pretty much got to the grip of it, and I was able to like plot my own sort of chart of how it works, and when to use this, and so the point is, it's a long process. You're going to be stuck at various points, but I've just learned that oh, I just realized my shirt is on theme. I didn't even, this was totally accidental. Modelos versa. Yeah, I'm just Spanish through and through, I guess now. But yeah, I think that's probably all I need to say for now. Just gonna carry on learning, gonna carry on the process, carry on the grind. I don't read very much. I'm not very good at read. I don't like reading. I never read in English, let alone trying to read in Spanish. So that's the one area where I could improve, but it's hard. I find that very hard. I'm more of a watching videos person. If I have a book, I've got this book now, Madrigal's Magic Key to Spanish. A few people on YouTube have sort of recommended it, and it's a bit basic for my level, I'd say, but going through it is a way to sort of engage with the language and sort of keep it going. And I learn words from it. I learn some structures from it. So I feel like everything that is out there that you can use, you should try and use. Initially, it might feel overwhelming, but after a while, you start to sort of form your own methods and what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And I think that's just it. So yeah, having a sort of workbook that I can do questions and answers works better for me than reading like a novel. I do know that if I read more novels, I'll get more out of my learning experience. I'll learn more grammar. I'll learn more sort of vocabulary probably. But yeah, I watch YouTube videos. I listen to I think podcasts are also my thing. I listen to loads of podcasts, just using materials after materials, and you sort of look back and you find that you've learned a lot. Duolingo is an interesting one. Duolingo is good, but you need to be careful because if you use just Duolingo, I don't think you're going to know how to speak to real people. Duolingo is very good for learning words. It's very, very good for learning structures, but it's not good if you're trying to sort of understand what native speakers are saying. I don't think you can get very far with Duolingo. And actually, if you're not careful, it starts to feel like a game. Like you just have to reach a certain number of points per week or competition. When actually, the goal is to learn a language, so you need to try and remember that and not sort of gamify the app. But yeah, that's probably all I should say for now. Yeah, enjoy learning, enjoy Spanish. Hasta pronto.